What is happening there, citizens of the Reject Nation? Greg and John here today. We just got out of the Disney lot. They kicked us out of there right away, so we are not shooting this on the Disney lot. We've found a different background, and I think we'll be fine here. This random spot in Burbank, it looks fine. We just saw Avatar: The Way of Water. Was really looking forward to this movie. Yeah, it's a thick film.
It's a thick boy.
It's a thick one. So we got some talking to do, but it's going to be all non-spoilers. That being said, first off, leave a like. Always got to mention that. Please go ahead, leave a like. Helps out the video. Secondly, even though the trailers don't make it like crystal clear what the movie's exact plot is, it's really not that complicated of a plot.
Yeah, surprisingly.
We will explain like pretty much what the first 20 minutes of the movie sets up, but the movie's over 3 hours long, so I really don't feel like we're spoiling anything. But if you want to go in just completely blind, like to all extent, then you should probably skip this video. Not listen to any reviews at all. Yeah.
Going cold, stop watching trailers, everything.
Here's what the basic story of the movie is. Jake and the Sullys, that's what we call them, the little family band right now. Right. They relocate, go away from being forest people to relocate to be with the reef people, so they go way across the oceans, decide to live with them because the Colonel, he's back. That was revealed a very, very long time ago. You can probably guess as to how the Colonel's back, but he's back, and he's out for revenge. And he's got the military supporting his revenge conquest plan.
The full fury of the Sky People military.
Avatar has weirdly become this movie franchise that's really easy to be cynical about. Admittedly, I had to kind of check my ego at the door a little bit when we were watching this film, because I did find myself like in the first 5 minutes just like hyper analyzing. Why am I doing this? I need to sit back and take in how I really feel about this movie. And after adjusting, I will say that I think the movie itself, there's so much about it that I find so much stronger than the first movie. Aspects of it that I don't think are quite as strong, but overall, I would say that there are aspects of this that I think I would definitely siphon those moments out and be like, that is masterfully executed. This is masterfully done. And I think it's overall like a better movie. But it's not perfect. There are definitely flaws that I want to dive into. There are pros I want to go into. Yeah, John, what's your overall experience after watching this movie?
Yeah, I'm a little bit dazed because it is a very thick experience. It gives you a lot to think about. And yeah, like I can understand how this would be formidable for anybody, but I was really surprised by how much I enjoyed this. And I think I came in with a similar, like I've been looking forward to this and rooting for them to succeed, but sitting down in the theater, remembering the first movie, I'm like, okay, yeah, in the first 20 minutes, maybe you're sitting there kind of analyzing every detail and being like, when is this going to get great? But as you ease up on it, though, like it really does become this fascinating experience because it's true movie magic, and it makes me wonder what the sequels are going to do because they're not each going to have a 10-year gap to like level up on. But this really gave me that feeling of like, wow, I am witnessing something groundbreaking. And on top of that, they listened to some of the criticisms on the last movie and improved on the emotional experience of it as well. Had all of that sort of earthy, communal, spiritual air that made the first Avatar movie so lovely to behold, at least as an immediate emotional experience. The innovations that bring this movie to life really feel like they're bringing it to life. Like you sit there and you watch and you go, this is like all effects probably, and yet it feels like I'm there. That's the happiest thing I could say. It's like that's exactly what I wanted.
Rather than doing the thing where you like say all your positives and then you save the negatives for the end, we're probably going to be weaving in and out because of the kind of journey that this movie takes you on. I would completely echo everything that you said. The ether of this film is so palpable and there is such a serene quality to it. The first act of this movie, like it kind of feels like it's in a rush. I was surprised by like this is moving so fast. The visuals are so overstimulating, and we didn't watch this in Dolby Cinema or IMAX. We actually saw this at just like a regular theater, but it was still in 3D. And I gotta tell you guys, I hate 3D. Like I loathe 3D. I wasn't even a big fan of the 3D of the first Avatar movie, even though everyone was like, man, that did not really do anything for me. This 3D was so effective that I think early on I looked at you and I'm like, I'm starting to get a headache because James Cameron with this movie, he plays much more with frame rates this time around. I don't know what the frame rate is on this because it definitely mixes it up throughout. You could tell by the motion of the characters, and in the first 20 minutes it took me some time to readjust to it. I feel like the movie, and I think James Cameron was intentionally doing this, it's kind of in a rush to get to the reef people because the second they go underwater,
oh my God,
you're just like, I think I said out loud, holy shit.
Yes, no, it's audible.
That's when the movie suddenly just starts getting really good and progressively gets better, and you're like, okay, this is something really unique because it's a technical marvel. The Na'vi, all the reef people, they look real. Like if you watch the first Avatar movie, they don't really look so real, all right? But they look real as shit in this film.
The textures alone are insane. Yes. Like you get lost going, how is this not makeup?
Because they're not trying to do it where you're masking them in shadows or dark lighting. The texture is impeccable. All the close-ups on them, they feel so human, even though they're not human, but you get what I'm getting at there. And then the 3D really starts to sing, especially underwater. If you've ever been to like an observatory or an aquarium where they have those 3D shows, it actually starts to feel that way because the first movie had its themes that it dealt with where they used like the structure of a film like, I almost said Pinocchio, Pocahontas, and like Dances with Wolves.
Fern Gully.
This doesn't really have that structure. In fact, there's so many different characters in here that's part of it's a minor criticism because I actually prefer this film and its characters in this movie, but the structures, because they're cutting around to so many different characters, it doesn't flow as smoothly of a narrative, even though it all does come together in the end in quite a mesmerizing finale. The finale is truly suspenseful, and like, there's something about James Cameron with Water and Wreckage. You put those two together, he just knows what he's doing. Yeah.
Kate Winslet. No, absolutely. And it's funny because the first Avatar movie was one that taught me kind of what to look for and how to appreciate 3D photography. You're absolutely right, because the first movie gives you this wonder of exploring Pandora, and then this movie, you start the first act in a place that's familiar, so you're mostly just going, wow, it looks so much more real. But once you get to the reef and you get to that culture, that part of the world, it is delivering that feeling of, wow, I'm experiencing a whole new world. And it's like, and you see it, and you're like, these effects are amazing, and whatever logical thought you have, but also the movie constantly gives you this feeling of being in the elements and like living the life. And I think the things that sing best in 3D are things like water and glass, and times when you're seeing through those things. This movie taking place so much in and under and around water is like one of the best applications of a technology to a thematic element, because it is tailor-made to look great and to really show you the depth of field, but also to transport you to the experience.
One thing that I really felt with this movie, because I think, if you especially look at the people's responses to the early reactions to this film, okay, obviously the technology and the visuals are going to be great, but how's the story? There's something that's very unique to Avatar, and especially with this movie, and I mean, it's definitely applicable for the first film. The technology and the world and the mood, the themes and the tone, the spirit, that in and of itself is a character of the movie. And because of the fact that that's a character, when you are just exploring, I feel like that's a big part of the movie's character development. And on top of that, too, they introduce a bunch of new characters in this film. I really like the leader of the Reef People, played by my boy, Cliff Curtis, man.
Yeah.
He's awesome. The real stars of this movie are the Sully kids. And this other guy, I won't spoil it, but this other guy who you see in the trailer looks like Tarzan. His name is Spider. The Sully kids especially, they're the real stars of this movie, because the second act is most of the film. And I think in the second act, you spend more time with them than you do with Natiri or Jake. They're all great. They are really fun characters to be around. They're well developed, they're nuanced. Like the first movie, I wouldn't say is just like, they're just exploring, but there's no real necessitation for some of the big sequences that they do. I feel like it's really well justified here, because every big sequence feels thrusted through character motive and character narration. I've seen some early reactions where people have said they don't feel like it's quite as character developed, and I don't agree with that one bit. I think, though, and I haven't heard any specifics, I feel like that's probably coming down to Natiri and Jake.
Sure,
because while I think they're really good in this movie, while there's a bit of a Last House on the Left effect with them, you won't know what I mean when I flashed the Last House on the Left, where I was like, oh, these two as parents, that's cool. I did have a little bit of that effect. I like their performances, but I do have some qualms with the way they specifically are fleshed out. I don't want it to sound like I think they did a bad job, because they didn't. And when they're there, I like them. That's the thing, is when they're there, I like them. But the motive for why Jake decides to not fight back, keep fighting, and instead retreat with his family to the Reef People, had a difficult time buying the reasoning. Like, they explain it. They do.
Yeah.
From seeing what the first 20 minutes was doing, which was surprisingly action heavy, knowing who Jake is, I'm like, I feel like with what propelled you to move would have made you actually go, I need to double down and fight.
Yeah, or at least go off on my own and take up the fight, even if I don't want to put other people in danger.
That being said, though, what they do with him as a father and the scenes that he had, that's the thing about this movie that I really loved. Is like when I watched the first Avatar movie, I'm mainly thinking about the cool key visual sequences. I really noticed I really like the scenes when they're just talking with each other.
Absolutely,
like,
yeah.
This movie, I liked just the scenes. There are some scenes that I was like, let's just speed this up. Because like a little over 3 hours, you probably could have cut out like 20 minutes. But then weirdly at the same time, there are parts of this movie where I'm like, well, you didn't really bring this. You set this thing up and that doesn't come back around.
You can tell they made some decisions where they're like, it's not the bottom line importance. We can just lose that.
Save it for Avatar 3 to wrap up. Or there are certain moments, and Wakanda Forever kind of does this too at times. An emotional beat will happen, and it just cuts away. like the scene just like, all right, we're cutting away to a new scene. Even though I'm like, if you stayed there for that scene, that lasting moment for like 10 more seconds, it would have just really left an impact.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting though. It's like 3-hour movie. You assume like there's going to be all the breathing room in the world, and then you watch a James Cameron 3-hour movie, and you're like, oh no, he's trying to cram so much into this. Yeah. There are economics and budgeting you could do for where you could, remove and replace things. But I don't know. For what we got here, I thought it was appropriate. And what you just said about the character work and stuff reminded me like of a Just Right video I was watching recently, where he kind of illustrated the difference between societal, social storytelling, community storytelling versus personal storytelling. And I feel like the trade you make between Avatars 1 and 2 is the first movie is a very personal story that works out a certain way. You remove that a little bit, you dial back on that, and you make this more of a societal story. You don't spend as much time on one character's quest so much as you spend time seeing what the life is, what they're fighting for, what's worth coming back to, and what the situation is that nobody can escape. And
but it pays off so well in the finale that by the time you get to the finale, not only is it suspenseful and intense, it's incredibly moving.
Sure, because it takes it because it's as long as it is, because it takes time to give you both the joys, the wonders, and the hardships of living here. And for Jake and Neytiri, it's like, the kids take the center stage in terms of like the real thrust of the plot. Ironically, I like their performances that much more in this movie, Sam Worthington and Zoe Saldana, because they're so elevated by their new roles as parents. Like, it's cool to watch Sam Worthington be, the guy trying to bring justice to a system he's learned is corrupt and whatever and help the people. But here you're watching something oddly more universal, so you could argue it's even more generic, but it's just fleshed out in a way that feels alive and breathing and moving and rousing.
The scenes with the children feel nuanced. And I think with Neytiri, you definitely explore way more what it's like for Jake to be a dad than it is for Neytiri to be a mom.
Sure.
And I think a lot of scenes with Neytiri, like, it's strange. It's a weird thing to have like a criticism about, because when she does them, it's so effective. At the same time, it did feel like most of the time when you cut to her, she's kind of just like, what? Like,
her voice is hoarse. She's the most pain. And you're like, can I please have some Neytiri joy scenes, please? Can I see Neytiri like having a wonderful like learning how to ride the water creatures scene or something for her?
And then even with Kate Winslet's character, who's the wife of the Reef People, the
called
chief
Ronal, I think.
She's just kind of like intense.
She's very intense, and very pregnant, but very committed to the well-being of her people. But you want more of those personal touches, but those are also things where you could go, I'm excited to see more of them in the future. Like, if we had to sacrifice certain things, I get why they did, but it would have been nicer to have them.
I cared way more about the characters this time. Like, that's 100%. The thing. I did. Despite the writing criticism, I feel like they just maybe had to trim some shit because the movie's already super long. I still really like them in the movie. While I feel like more of the development went to the children, I feel like that development of them outweighs whatever you feel might be a lack of development.
Sure.
Everything on the technical side, brilliant, beautiful to behold. The movie itself is mainly like the theme of it is like, don't mess with the ocean anymore, people. Like, it's an environmental movie by all means. It even made me go, you know what? I need to stop whale hunting. I need
to stop clubbing baby seals, man. I got to give that up.
Hunting down those mantas in the ocean.
Well, and that's the thing, is it does really beautifully present its ecological message, because it doesn't beat you over the head with it in dialogue so much as it just shows you this continuum of people living with and from and in harmony. Not not even harmony. I feel like that's what people roll their eyes at. Living in a cycle with the land where you give and you take and you respect all that there is.
And while the movie has some repeat beats when it comes to, without giving spoilers, villains, I will say I definitely hated the villain more, like in a good way. Like I don't like this villain and I want villain to die. I was invested. I was very much invested. The first 20 minutes, I was like, ooh.
Oh, here we go.
And then once it started really smooth out, and then by the time we get to the end, I was like, wow, that was a brilliant film, and I can't wait to watch it again.
Yeah, I mean, they gave him just enough of a nuance that he's not like, he's not like a fully 100% 3D character, but at the same time, he's much more understandable and interesting than in the first movie.
And yes, just quick shout outs to all the things that you would expect to be great. The sound design is just as equally immersive. James Horner's music score is beautiful and sweeping,
as well as the new bits too. I mean,
yes,
from the other composer.
1,000%. Avatar is meant to be a blockbuster experience. It's meant to be a movie theater cinematic going experience.
It's meant to be movie magic of the highest regard.
And I think it truly excels more than the first one. If I have to choose between the two, it was a pretty easy choice for me when this movie was done. Was like, I'm going with Avatar 2.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, no question. Like, even leaving the first one, like having those highs of emotion that the movie gives you, like this one, I was like, no, I'm positive that I like this that much more.
Yeah, it was a really easy choice.
I'm like, not only are there technical advancements, yada, yada, but I was way more invested. I cried a couple times, I felt emotionally towards it, as well as, oh, cool movie stuff.
Watch it in 3D. I didn't think I'd be saying that, but yeah, watch it in 3D.
Big and in 3D. Best screen you can find.
All right, guys. Well, that's our thoughts on Avatar: The Way of Water. Leave your thoughts down below. Be sure to subscribe, leave a like, click that bell. We will not be around to do a spoiler talk.
Do it on wedding day.
Do it on the wedding day, John.
Live streaming from the dance.
But hey, that's where we're at. We'll see you guys soon.